So, the rumour mills are really going at it right now, aren't they? If it's not player transfers, it's Overwatch 2. If it's not that, it's the organisation and situation with the Overwatch League for its 2021 season. And, to be quite honest, it's very hard to keep up with, and it's a joyous time to be a content creator. I'm sure you've realised on my channel in the past week to 2 weeks. Anyway, let's move on to something a little bit different. This is not to do with transfers. This is to do with, it's a bit of a crossover between Overwatch League and Overwatch 2, to be quite honest. So, the rumour mills have been going at it, as I said. The rumours are that Overwatch League will be pushed back to April 2021. I did a video on that. There's been rumours that Overwatch 2 is actually coming close to release. Whether that be February, when we have BlizzCon, the online BlizzCon, which we have no details about the content with at the moment, apart from like cosplay stuff, which is pretty self-explanatory for BlizzCon. That usually happens. So there are people suggesting that either there could be a beta dropped when BlizzCon was meant to be, which again is a possibility, but I think it's a slim one, and then it gets fully released at BlizzCon, or a beta gets released at BlizzCon and then gets fully released with the start of the Overwatch League season, which obviously would be April. Either way, every which way the Overwatch 2 release is being rumoured right now would have a significant impact on the Overwatch League season for 2021. So, it's time to take a look ahead at quite how Overwatch 2 will impact the Overwatch League. What sort of things are coming in Overwatch 2 that will change the league, make it different, perhaps even rejuvenate it in some respects, make it interesting once again. It's going to be an interesting time when Overwatch 2 gets put into Overwatch League, and yeah, it's time to take a look forward at it. So, here are 5 things I have highlighted that are coming with Overwatch 2 that will have a major impact on how Overwatch is played in the Overwatch League and how Overwatch will seem in the Overwatch League. So, first of all, we're going to talk about Reworked Heroes, because there is a significant rumour going around and significant thought that there will be some heroes that are reworked into completely different categories for Overwatch 2. Some to be highlighted around this are Brigitte moving from support to tank, Mei moving from DPS to tank, and then Roadhog perhaps moving from tank to DPS. And these would have significant hits on how these heroes are played. For example, we've seen changes that can propel heroes into metas, like Torb rework propelled Torb into the meta for a little bit because he was a tank buster, he was anti-dive, and he worked pretty darn well. Also, we've seen Symmetra have some reasonable success with her rework, even though like she's not the most highly picked hero right now. She's still having a lot of success in certain situations, and to be quite honest, she is much more picked than she ever was. I mean, she was just, we remember the days of Muma picking Symmetra in Spawn because she just didn't get used otherwise. Like, she was never ever used. But Reworked Heroes, it depends on how their power is and what they'll be like, but Mei in a tank role could be extremely powerful, and so she could be meta when it comes to 2021 season. Same with Brigitte in a tank role. And would they be off tanks? Would they be main tanks? There's a lot of debate going around about how this would work. Also, Roadhog, how would he be a DPS considering the size he is and the ult battery he is? He would have to go on a diet, maybe. I don't know. But there would be significant changes needed to these heroes to make them work. And it could propel them into a meta. It could propel, to be quite honest, with the changes coming on Overwatch 2, we could see an entire meta of heroes that we basically haven't seen in that state before, or haven't seen at all before. Because that leads me on to our second point covering in this video, and that is new heroes entirely. So there is going to be multiple heroes released with Overwatch 2. We know one of them, it's Sojourn. She is most likely a DPS hero. Looking at her, she may be a support, I doubt whether she's a tank. But she most likely looks like a DPS hero, and it could be that she is very powerful, comes into the meta immediately, but then we have to take into account the other heroes. There could be like 5 heroes released with Overwatch 2. So that brings into the fray the possibility of an Overwatch 2 meta, like an Overwatch 2 meta. And what I mean by that is, say we see a meta with 5 of the new heroes, and then one of the heroes that's been reworked. It would be heroes that we basically haven't seen before. It would be entirely alien, and it would perhaps cause disruption in the early stages of the league. And that is something to be aware of, and that's why I said a couple of videos ago about how it could be a very difficult season 2021. And it depends on what heroes they bring out. I mean, we've seen ideas like around Maximilian before. The Omnic we saw in the end of the Rialto. I want to say Rialto, but it's the Archives event, the last Archives event on Rialto. I can't remember its name. Storm Rising, that's it. The Omnic we see with Doomfist, he is another option. Then we've got Malga, who was rumoured before we got Sigma. And there's options and options and options. And we've got options in comics and stuff like that. So we could see a flood of new heroes. And it could heavily impact the meta. And so players in the Overwatch League are going to have to be very versatile. They're going to have to be... It's going to be an ultimate test of your flexibility. One tricks probably won't fare too well in 2021 if Overwatch 2 comes out for that season. Because you're going to need to be flexible, especially if there's more tanks around and stuff like that. You're going to need to flex a lot. It's going to take a while to work out things. So I expect players like Hydration, Rascal, people like that. People have got really nice flexible pulls. Profit is another one. To do really well. Because they can master heroes quickly. And then they hit the ground running with them. It's crazy how they can do this. And Fleta, you could also include into that, depending on the hero. It'll be interesting to see how these guys do with these new heroes that are coming in. Now, obviously, the third point leads us off to, yeah, it's all going to be new stuff, but like, new maps. So we have a bunch of new maps confirmed for Overwatch 2. They currently total 4. They were all announced at BlizzCon last year, 1st of November 2019. So Rio de Janeiro, we don't know what type that is. We have Toronto, which is a push map. We'll get on to push in a minute. We have Gothenburg, which will be an assault map. And then we have Monte Carlo, which we don't know what map type that'll be either. Now, we don't know, because we don't know Rio de Janeiro or Monte Carlo's map types, they might be push, because push will have to have several different maps when it comes into the game. Otherwise, we're just going to have the same push map over and over again. It'll be Toronto, Toronto, Toronto. Obviously, there's the possibility that there may be more maps as well. It wouldn't surprise me if there was. We've had a map drought. We have not had a new map since Havana, which was back in on this. It was released on live for the 7th of May 2019. We are well over a year since our last map in Overwatch, and it doesn't feel that great, does it? I am presuming they're saving them all for Overwatch 2. We may not have much longer to wait for new maps, because we will get a big dump with Overwatch 2, as I keep saying. And these maps, they may play out differently. And it ties into the fourth point, which we'll go on to in a minute. But maps may be slightly different when it comes to Overwatch 2 because of the overhaul of the engine that will be coming. So let's move on to, let's amalgamate this with point 4, which will be the new Overwatch engine, the Overwatch 2 engine. Now everyone is getting this. The back end of Overwatch is getting an overhaul. Remember that the Overwatch 1 engine has existed since pre-2014. Remember that the Overwatch is not as old as it is on the paper. It's not as old as the beta's release. It is old going all the way back to 2013 when it was first in development. It's been using the same engine back in 2013, 2014, and then it was announced on the 7th of November 2014 when we got King's Row, Hanamura, Temple of Anubis, and it's been using that same engine for nearly 7 years, if not more, 8 years. We're approaching a decade on the same engine, so now it's going to get an overhaul. And with most recent technological advancements, when we look at the advancements in graphics cards in PCs, when we're looking at next-gen consoles with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, we are looking at much more powerful options for Overwatch 2. This means the engine will have an overhaul, and maps and heroes and stuff like that will be capable of much, much more. They will be able to do a lot more with the power enabled to them. So this enables, and it's a special thing for Overwatch 2 because of its PvE modes, but it also enables it in PvP maps to be bigger. It allows them to be more complex. It allows them to be bigger. It allows them to have much more in terms of elements and interactions and stuff in them. So maps become more complex, and so they may start to play slightly differently. And they may become more brawly, they may become more strategic. You don't know, but it may mean that maps change. It may mean that maps become a little bit bigger, a little bit different to play on. And everyone will get this. This isn't just Overwatch 2. Overwatch 1 will be getting the engine upgrade. It'll be getting these new maps, because competitive is going to span Overwatch 1 and 2. So everyone will play on this. So the Overwatch League will play on this as well. And with that, obviously, it enables better frame rates and stuff like that. But at the Overwatch League level, that doesn't have too much of an impact because they're all playing on 240 Hz. And they're all playing at that point. I mean, there are 300 Hz monitors now, so you can have 300 FPS, and that's where Overwatch maxes out. Although, that's where Overwatch 1 maxes out. Who knows where Overwatch 2 may max out? That may max out at 500 FPS or something stupid like that, and be completely future-proof. So, there are technological advancements that could make the game smoother. It could make the game different. It could mean that more technological advancements lead to different maps, more complex maps, more advanced maps, and therefore they may start to play differently. And they may have a bigger impact in sort of coaching and stuff like that, and positioning and tactics and stuff like that may become even more important on more complex maps if we get them in Overwatch 2. And that kind of amalgamates our maps and an engine sort of discussion, because we move on to our last point now, and this is what I promised to talk about. It's push. It's the new competitive mode. We have never had a new competitive mode in Overwatch. We have always been burdened with the same competitive modes that we've seen the entire time out. So this is Escort, Hybrid, Control, and Assault. So it's always been this 4-map sort of thing, and we've rotated them in the Overwatch League. But now we are going to get a 5th map type. We are going to get Push, where we move this thing with a bot, and he pushes it, and you've got to get it to the end. It's basically a tug of war. That's essentially what it is. And this will be fantastic. We wanted to see a new competitive mode. I know people on Ladder will absolutely love it. I'm sure they will. Although it's the Overwatch community, I'm sure they'll find something to complain about. But this comes with a new map, Toronto. We already know that Toronto is a push map. I would be surprised if Monte Carlo or Rio de Janeiro wasn't a push map, because push I would have thought will come with at least 3 maps alongside Overwatch 2. Because it will need a map pool. You can't just play it on one map. It would be a little bit odd. We don't have Rio de Janeiro or Monte Carlo's map type confirmed. So this will be an interesting one, because from what I've seen of Push at BlizzCon 2019, it looks like a very brawly, scrappy sort of game mode. We've been in a brawly, scrappy meta recently, old Roadhog meta, and it had an impact on the game. It was a weird one, but Push seems to be a bit of an embodiment of that brawly sort of type of meta, and it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be very different to the other map types. That's for sure. I think it's going to be very, very different to the other map types. It's also going to be it's a symmetrical map, so it's very similar to the way in which maps for Control work. They're always symmetrical. There's always the same distance from the middle of the map for both spawns, and they will have moving spawns as the payload. It's not a payload. I don't know what it is, but as it moves, the spawns change. And again, this will be played in the Overwatch League, not just competitive ladder. So this enables something, and we talked about this in the video the other day when we talked about San Francisco Shock winning the league, and Krusty's big brain in terms of looking at maps that he needed to win, map types he needed to win. And he picked out that he definitely needed to win Control, and he definitely needed to win Hybrid. And so Shock basically won those maps. There wasn't much arguing with it. And they didn't win the other maps. They didn't win 2CP, they didn't win Escort, but they won Hybrid and they won Control, and it won them the league. And this would be impacted by the addition of Push, because there would be that extra element of unpredictability. So we wouldn't go for the 5th map straight to Control. Funny that. It is very hard, I believe. I think it's actually impossible to draw Push. So it's another mode like Control that could be used as a tiebreaker mode. And in that case, it will offer a little bit of unpredictability when it comes to tiebreaker map 5 situations. And so teams have to become more prepared. There's going to be an extra map type. That means there's going to be extra scrim time needed for these map types. There's going to be extra training and extra learning needed by the players for these map types. Remember that none of these players have played on these push types either, apart from the little sneak peek that they would have got at BlizzCon last year. and not everyone would have had that either. So they're gonna have to put in a lot more time, and a lot more prep, and a lot more scrims, and a lot more coaching to understand push. And it's gonna add more variation to the map pool. It's gonna add more unpredictability, and it's gonna mean that you can't get away necessarily what the shock did. Now, I'm not saying what the shock did was bad. I never said that. I think it was big brain by Krusty, to be quite honest. We know how good Krusty is as a coach. But that will be less doable in future with Overwatch 2 with the addition of push. So, yeah. It is going to be very interesting to see Overwatch 2's release eventually, whenever it is. Whether it be early next year, whether we get a beta in November, whether it's in 2025, whenever it bloody comes out. Please, Blizzard, just tell us. Whenever it comes out, it's going to be incredibly interesting because it's going to change things. It's going to change things massively. Not just for Overwatch, but for the Overwatch League as well. And this could be the reason why Overwatch League may be pushed back slightly. It could be the reason why we are seeing some changes for 2021. And it could be the reason why we're seeing so many shakeups at Overwatch League teams right now. But this was a discussion on Overwatch 2. I like having discussions on Overwatch 2. I like my theories to just go brr. But it's going to be interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And stay tuned, because I'm sure there'll be another transfer run up soon enough, because, you know, Overwatch League teams go brr. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.